Good evening, Mr. Datar, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation for this, very interesting interview about your life journey and the legal systems in India, the reimagining Indian tax scenario. So today we are going to discuss about Indian tax litigations, where we are heading. Sir, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Sir, we would like to know about your personal journey. Tell us something about your initial years of life. How did you end up taking up law as a career, sir?
Well, before I start, I must thank the Bombay Chartered Accountant Society for asking me for this interview. I must tell you that for the last several years, ever since I was a junior, I've been regularly following the BCAJ journal, and my former senior, late senior, no more, Mr. Ramamani, who was a leading tax practitioner in South India. He used to always tell us that this is one of the best journals, most informative journals, and I've been reading your journal with pleasure. So it's been a privilege. It's really a privilege to be speaking at today's function, at today's interview. Well, on my journey as a lawyer, like so many cases, I am a lawyer really by accident. I didn't initially, when I started out in school, college, law was the last thing in my mind. My father was in the merchant navy. He was a captain. He had his own shipping business here. And I decided to join the merchant navy, become a captain. And then my plan was to start my own shipping company. I'd also planned that my shipping company will be called P.Datar International Shipping Company, DISCO. And I used to imagine ships with the word DISCO on the side, and I had planned that I'll be an international shipping company. I always dreamed big, So I said, if I'm going to be a captain, I might as well start an international shipping company called DISCO. So anyway, but all plans sometimes get upset. And when I got fortunately, I did well in school, and I had to write the entrance exam. That time it used to be called TS Rajendra, was the shipping training thing in Bombay. And I had just had a surgery, which was a disqualification. As per the prospectus, this was a disqualification. So my plans of going to the merchant navy were completely shattered. That time there were not many cases, so you could join some private thing and become, so it was all very regulated. Then I tried for engineering, again had a medical problem the next year. And then I joined Ruya College and BSc Physics and Mathematics. And right from school, I was a very active debater. I used to, without being immodest, I could say that I was doing reasonably well in debates, winning a lot of prizes. And in Ruya College also, I started doing a lot of debates. And then I thought that, what about law as a career? I heard Mr. Palkiola in Buddha College in 1973. Then I used to attend his budget lectures. Debates were there. I started getting very interested in economics, in finance, and so on. So I said, now I'll do law, and I said I want to be a tax lawyer. So what to do? I couldn't do a CA because I could not do articleship with law, because I joined the day college. We didn't have any other option. So I said, to learn accounts, I do ICWA, because that time ICWA was evening classes. So I could do law in the morning and ICWA in the evening. So that's how I did my law and my ICWA. And I could not be a chartered accountant. And then, of course, by God's grace, I went through law, I went through this thing, and I started practice. And as you say, I believe that everything happens for the better. I have no regrets. I enjoy every single day. And I think I would not have been happy as an engineer. I don't know what if I had my own shipping company, what would have been the difference? Maybe I would have been in IBC or with the committee of creditors. But as a lawyer, I must say, I think I made the right decision in retrospect, yes.
So I think the divide design has worked for you also, for the country also. We got a very good, eminent lawyer.
Yeah, no. And the other fortunate thing was, after I became a lawyer, I immediately started, actually even before my results came, I started teaching in ICWA. And as soon as the results came, I started teaching in the Southern India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Your past president, Mr. Bhupati, was there, and Sir Ramakrishna was there. So many eminent chartered accountants were there at that time. I started teaching in the institute, CA Institute. You will not believe it, the inter class, I used to have 300 students in one class. It was a huge hall. And I can say, frankly, I learned taxation. I used to teach gift tax, wealth tax, estate duty, and also capital gains in the CA Institute and ICW. I was teaching in ACS. As a young lawyer, I had no money, no brief at all. So one important thing was to get money through lectures. And to your audience, you'll be surprised to know it was in 1980. I used to get 25 rupees for 2 hours of lectures, and then CA Institute made it 50 rupees for a 2-hour lecture. Can you imagine what was the value of money at that time? Of course, the bus ticket was 15 paise, so 2 rupees was 50 rupees was a big amount. We felt very thrilled, From 25 rupees, started getting 50 rupees per lecture. So those are the days. So I learned a lot, and I had a very close association with chartered accountants right through. And I always believe that lawyers should emulate chartered accountants, especially your continuing education program and so on. And I keep telling people that you must emulate chartered accountants who are constantly learning, having these seminars, and so on. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Thank you, sir. It's really heartening that learning from the lawyers, the words of appreciation, especially in the 75th year we are entering the profession and the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society also.
Oh,
Sir, you were born and brought up in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And then you went to Chennai. How challenging it was, sir, to study in Chennai?
No, actually, there's a small correction that I was born in Bombay, and at the age of I think 4 or 5, I went to Chennai. I came to Chennai, Madras, in 1961, because my father started his business here. And then after 68, 69, me and my brother went off to a boarding school in Pune. And then from Pune, I went to Ruia College, and my brother went to Madras IIT. So we were basically in boarding schools from the age of 10, 11, both of us. So, and then what happened? I did ICW in the evening, and I had no problems in adjusting in Madras, because I till today I can't read and write Tamil. I can speak a very colloquial Tamil. I can't read and write. But since I decided to eventually practice in income tax, I had no problem settling down. Yeah.
Sir, as a young lawyer, especially a first generation lawyer, any mentors that you would like to mention, either directly, indirectly, while you rose to where you stand today?
First and foremost, I have been extremely blessed to have wonderful seniors. The biggest blessing an advocate can have, and perhaps even a chartered accountant can have, is a good senior who guides him, who encourages him, and so on. So initially, you see, when I was in college, apart from before had my seniors, I started reading biographies of great lawyers. And fortunately, the Commemorate Public Library in Madras, which is one of the 3 national libraries in the country, had a complete shelf of legal biographies. So I read the biographies of Motilal Setalvad, of Justice Hidayatullah, all the great English judges. I read every biography. Mr. Kadju, that is Kadju Senior, K.N. Kadju was the first minister in those days. And these were very inspirational to me. For example, I read the biography of Lord Reading, who was Rufus Isaacs. Then I realized that he used to get up every day at 4 and work till 8. He used to work 4 hours every day on his briefs and then go to court and parliament. So the habits of big lawyers, these were all great learning experience for me. Then after I joined the law, then I decided, that I have to be a tax lawyer. But I decided that I should not jump into tax. I should know basics of civil law. So I did 1 year civil practice with the civil office. And then I switched to tax. And even today I tell people, don't directly go for tax. Do 1 year civil. Ideally, do 1 year civil, 1 year criminal, learn the basics of civil law, criminal law, then do your taxation. So, until today, this civil practice has been a great help. So, to answer your question of mentors, one was mentors through books. I also was a great believer in self-help books, like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich was very, very important. Ayn Rand was a great influence on my life. I read so many books. Peter Drucker was a great influence. So, all these books helped me a lot. So, books were a great mentor for me. There were no YouTube videos in those days, but it was only books. And then I was blessed with seniors. Then I joined Mr. Ramamani's office, which was the leading office. And I was very, very encouraged in those days. And what I did initially was that Mr. Ramamani would appear in all the top cases, all the leading companies in Tamil Nadu. Most of them were his clients. As a raw junior, I would go and appear before the CIT appeals. or appeal with the Assistant Commissioner Appeals and so on. So all the small cases I started doing myself, because when I was in the civil office, my senior told me that it's more important how you argue your own cases. Don't keep on assisting a senior. Start doing cases yourself. Unless you jump into the water, you will not know to swim. So I was blessed with good mentors as seniors, and blessed with good mentors through books. Even today, when I get interns, I tell them you first read Roses in December by Chagla, or read
Mr. Chagla, yes.
you
I
should
was
read.
about to,
Yeah.
right. So I think that's an important point for, professionals to, you can sort of get into the minds of the brightest by reading their books. They are sort of doorways into you kind of meet them through their words.
And what's more important is what young chartered accountants can do is analyze how these people became successful. What were the steps they took? Can you take the same steps? So these are like role models. They have created a path. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can follow their path, and you'll perhaps 99% you'll do well.
Right. And, in those early days, how was it, to sort of find clients? Because, between the lawyer and the client, how does it work for a young professional? And in your case, how did it pan out?
Well, I had a very, very harsh struggle, in the sense I had a very difficult struggle in the beginning. I had decided when I joined, before I joined law college, I said, before I joined the practice, I said, I'll do 1 year civil law. I'll do 3 years tax practice. I know exactly on the 4th year, I will set up my practice. So I joined the bar in 80 to 81, I did civil law. 81 to 84, I did tax law. 84, 1st March, exactly 4 years after I enrolled, I quit. I didn't have any client, except my late senior was very kind enough. There was a big matter of Bank of India. He said, you're sitting out on your own. You please take this case and you do this case. That was a big help, because it helped me. I just got married. So that fees from that case kept us going for some time. Fortunately, I was living with my parents. So the food, etc., rent, etc., was not there. But it was a struggle. Secondly, I had a big struggle because I was told that you never go to the client's office as a lawyer. The client comes to you. No matter what happens, you don't go to a client's office. And I stuck to that. And as a result of which, I was not getting any work at all. Many people say, you must come here, you must come there. I said, no, I will add a small office. In fact, I started my first office in the veranda. Then I built a small office. But so day after day after day, I would just sit, and someone told me, the lawyer's office is like a barber shop. You must be there, whether that customer comes or not. Your light should be on, your room, you should be sitting in the room. So my letterhead said 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. and 5:30 to in the evening 7:30. So I would come back by bus, sit in the office. Day after day, there'll be no client. But I refused to go. So it was a great struggle, but in the long run, it panned out. It helped, but it was a very bad struggle. I mean, I tell all people, that don't be in a hurry. I bought my first typewriter 6 years after I joined the bar. Just I couldn't afford a typewriter. And I bought a car at the age of, after 11 years in the bar. So till 10 years, I was going by bus. So these are all struggles, but I had decided that there's no point compromising. If you give up one, then there is no end to it. It's just a small. So I refused to go to any client's office. Whoever the client was, I refused to go to any client's office. He had to come and see me.
Thank you. Coming to this point on the tax laws and, the litigation and the practice around it, for a citizen of India, what is your analysis after all these years and fighting all these cases at various levels and reading all sorts of laws that keep changing all the time about our present tax legislation as well as the litigation system that sits under it? What's the basic edifice, and just your broad analysis, a few words on that.
See, having completed now 4 decades and more of tax practice, nothing has really changed. What it was in 1981 continues even now. Every time we talk of tax should be simplified, it should be not adversarial, and we will not will be citizen friendly. If you see, every time there was a new direct tax code bill, there will be a thing that you have a citizens charter, you have all these things. Nothing has really changed. And I think fundamentally, I can't blame the officers also, because in my view, the fundamental flaw is our focus on revenue maximization by chasing absurd revenue targets. The whole income tax department works in its own silo. It has to recover as much tax as it wants, irrespective of the collateral damage done to the economy. GST will keep on focusing on its own, getting as much money as it wants, regardless of the tax rate. And it occurs to me that how much of time we are wasting. You see, now you're chartered accountant, you know more than me. I'm told that 97 paise in the rupee comes from advance tax and TDS. The 3 paise is all this litigation, Income Tax Act, 400 sections and so on. 97 paise in the rupee comes. So even if you shut down the income tax department, 97% collection will be there. Now, for that 3%, how much of torture, how much of this, every time, at least fortunately now retrospective taxation has reduced. But see, Vodafone, you overruled it, even what happened? Ultimately, you have to pay 8,000 crores to gain. What was the benefit? Case after case, the moment you lose a case, you get it. What I find is the department never seems to accept that they can be wrong. And it's every little case will go on appeal, every point they will not give. If you go to any seminar also, the view of the department is revenue maximization at any cost. Even what like equalization levy you try to levy and you keep on trying to collect more and more and more tax. Why don't you focus on having more growth? It's better to collect 20% tax with at a 6 trillion economy than try to keep on making 40% at 2.5. And when I speak to clients, the biggest difficulty they have is the tax system at the central level and the regulatory system in the states. To start a factory, the amount of permissions they have to get, the licenses, etc., is still horrendous. So the tax is, as I would put it, we have a long way to go unless we change our mindset, saying that look, tax is a byproduct of growth. It's not the be all and end all. But I don't know whether it's going to change in my lifetime.
And we were also thinking about the fairness and justice part of it, because the law must deliver fairness and justice to the citizen, especially to a taxpayer when we had so few, except for last few years. And somehow we find that taxpayers keep fighting for years and years, and then one day there is some retrospective amendment after they have won, or there is some kind of a change by, say, some court which shuts down a mine, or something goes dramatically, takes a U-turn. And where does the taxpayer go? Because otherwise you thought you could go to the Supreme Court, to the High Court, to wherever you can. But in the end, the law itself changes. How do you see this part of it, and how should a taxpayer deal with it? And on the other side, we just heard that HNIs are leaving just a couple of days back.
Yes, Mr.
Pai tweeted about it, and
no, actually, sorry, please
yeah.
go ahead.
So how do you see this whole thing? And it is not the first year; probably it's happening over the years.
I had read that in the last 5-6 years, some 23,000 HNIs have left. Now this year alone, 6. You see, as you say, the essential part of a system of rule of law is fairness and justice, as you very correctly put it. Now, I say, where is the fairness if you are going to start reopening assessments? You have whatever the system of reopening, GK and drive shaft, this thing. You are a chartered accountant. Once an assessment is open, notice is issued. How many cases has the officer accepted that, look, there is no need for reopening? Once the reopening starts, then it has to go. Either you file a writ petition or you go ahead and ahead. Now, again, you reopen. Now, what have they done? For central excise, it's very reasonable. You pay 7.5% on appeal. For income tax, you pay 20% of the tax plus interest plus this. What kind of a system is this? Look at what they done to charitable trusts. I mean, you're making life so miserable. Not even an exist option. I don't want to be a charitable trust. I say, leave me alone. Every time you give some benefit, and then you start taking it on some ground or the other. You then, like Vatika Township, you keep fighting up to the Supreme Court whether 1,000 square feet housing will include the balcony, will not include the balcony, whether the 10 shops are included in the society, should I disconnect? So the whole system is give you benefit, and then for some reason or other discontinue. Don't. And what is a very unfortunate is when you reopen, you don't bother about the settled positions also. How many cases you have done on mere change of Supreme Court has said for 50 years on change of opinion, you can't revise assessment. But case after case, it's a mere change of opinion. I have to meet a revenue target. So I will simply disallow something as, and then what happens? Since you say you have disallowed it, you'll say you not deducted TDS, then you disallow under section 40, then penalty under 201, and it just goes on. And the same thing in central excise. The 5 years only for fraud suppression. Every case is open for 5 years. And Mr. Pai, government must realize that, I think everyone is very mesmerized by, okay, some Foxconn has started in India, some PLI scheme is doing, somebody is invested in startups. What is happening to your manufacturer? Today, even I bought a VIP or aristocrat suitcase made in China. Balloons for my granddaughter's birthday made in China. I should not be ashamed of that. See, and the point is the government doesn't want any unfavorable data. Everything has to be very nice and smooth, but it is not. There are a lot of serious problems, and major problem is the tax part of it. As you rightly put it, I start after so many years, and now you can reopen after 10 years.
So the other angle, sir, is which you mentioned, about one is the procedure, the way the officers go about it, but the other angle is also the law itself. When you succeed all the way, you go up to Supreme Court, you succeed, and then you find the law being amended, and such absurd. In fact, every year you see hundreds of amendments. I mean, over 100 amendments in the. Mr. Palkhiwala had talked about the Indian Income Tax Act being a national disgrace, and today, what is your view on all this?
You see, my basic point is the whole law is good because two charitable trusts did something illegal. You hit at all the charitable trusts. Now, because some chartered accountants may have not done their duty under the Act, you hit the entire CA profession. Why should CA profession come under this PMLA? You look at the latest Supreme Court judgment in the Deloitte case and the other case. If a firm of 100 partners or 60 partners, even if 2 partners do something wrong, the entire firm can be disqualified. I mean, what are we doing? Yes, and as you rightly put it, as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned, I always used to say on this. I mean, once a judgment comes, I go up to Supreme Court, I win the case, then there's a retrospective amendment. In one budget lecture, I said that we can have an amendment saying that if any case goes in favor of the SSC, it will be deemed to have been overruled with retrospective effect. Now, take your 132, for example. They say search can't be disclosed with retrospective. Why can't you give the reasons? There's no justification at all. And this entire thing of this 147, this reopening, it's just going on and on.
In fact, in the budget. Sorry.
No. And all for that 3%. 97% is coming automatically.
So, in fact, in the budget, the amendment which come, can they not be debated and, put for public debate before, it's unlike the excise where, from depending on the clearance, etc. That's why the secrecy is required because if the rates change, etc. But income tax, frankly, is there any logic to not, having public discussion before the amendments are brought about?
Actually, here I can't blame the government because in the last 3 sessions, every budget session has been a washout because of the opposition boycotting and so on. So there has been no debate and ultimately just pushed through on last day. What is more worrying is that adding something on the last day, in the budget, like for example, equalization levy is added on the last day. We did not even know about it. Then this year also many provisions added. The entire GST tribunal provision added on the last day. Nobody. It was not even tabled before Parliament. It was just added and simply passed. So I just wrote an article after the new Parliament was done. See, the number of debates in Parliament has gone down. Not in 60 days per year is also not there for Parliament to debate. Even that goes out because of boycott. So there should be debate and discussion. And what I personally feel is that there's this entire thing of secrecy of the budget. Somehow keep everything secret and then make a surprise. All of us are waiting. Why can't the interesting provision? Suppose, for example, you're bringing 115 BAB on what you call relief for manufacturing companies. Why don't you place the law in front? We can give suggestions. If you want to give some benefit to manufacturer, give it to the CA Institute. You got so many eminent chartered accountants, they can debate, they can tell you what are the practical difficulties. So many provisions start and they become non-starters, you see.
Sir, you've spoken about, I have heard one YouTube video of yours about tribunalization. That was, I think, during the COVID period, which was the best time to, learn and educate themselves. And it would be nice if you tell us a little bit about, this whole process of, developing tribunals, and then, trying to dish out justice through them. Is it real way to deal with disputes?
See, I started my income tax career as working with my senior. I used to go mainly to the income tax appellate tribunal. And I can tell you one of my happiest days were in the ITAT. We had very excellent tribunal members. We had George Cherian, we had TNC Rangarajan, we had so many other very, very good tribunal members. It's no time to mention all their names. And as a junior, we learned a lot. We had a very good team of people. Justice Ishwar was also my senior in that time. So it was a wonderful time we had. Now, not many people know that when the income tax tribunal was started in 1941, we keep saying colonial legacy, but the government, the British government, placed the income tax tribunal under the law ministry to keep it independent. And a 7-judge bench in Chandrakumar's case has said that all tribunals should be under an independent nodal ministry, preferably Ministry of Law. So they are not part of the parent department. From 97 to 2023, now 26 years apart, this has not been. In fact, there is an affidavit filed because I've been fighting this tribunal battle from 1991 against all cases going to tribunal. We succeeded in striking down the National Tax Tribunal. So I used to keep saying that, look, the tribunal has to be independent. It should be like a mini court. What's the purpose of tribunal? Up to Commissioner of Appeals, he's a departmental official. He's got his own compulsions. Once it comes to a tribunal, you want an independent body to decide the facts. Now look at your board for advance ruling. What is the meaning of having a board with 3 commissioners? What is the value? What's its worth? What respect? Where was Justice Ranganathan heading the AAR and where are we now? So the tribunal has gone into a very, very unfortunate part. Government is taking tribunal as part of the executive. And I heard senior officers, secretaries say that no, tribunal must protect government interests. Tribunal is not to protect it, it's supposed to decide this litigation independently. And what is the worst thing that has happened now is this new system of having officers for 4 years and 5 years, which you would want a person above 45. Now, if you have, I struggled, you struggled, all of us have struggled. We normally start earning money in the early 40s, 30s are struggling. Then we have an office, we have juniors, we have got some 20, 30 clients are there. We are getting our own briefs in the High Court, the tribunal. Then I go off to the tribunal as a member. After 4 years, what do I do? And the worst thing in company law and income tax, I can't practice again in the tribunal again. So it's a whole thing is structured where people who are really good don't want to come to the tribunal. And everybody tell me that this 4 year is a very, very dangerous position. Even now also matters are coming in the Supreme Court. 41 members are shortlisted. Some people waitlist are selected. The regular people are not selected. When the pending matters in the Supreme Court, you again, and the most unfortunate thing is the tribunal's ordinance was struck down by the Supreme Court. Within 11 days, they introduced the act in the same term. And Supreme Court has not stayed it. It's coming on 11 July. So the entire tribunal system is in extremely unhappy state because it is not an independent system at all. And tribunal has to be specialized. Like if a person joins tribunal at 45, he retires at 62, he gets a complete expertise, whether it is PMLA, FEMA, income tax, sales tax. The tribunal member would be retiring at 62. He'll have a 10-15 year career. And then after retirement, he can do what he wants. Now, if a person is in 4 years, what does he learn? If he doesn't have an income tax background, what does he learn? It's a very serious point. You have specialized tribunals with people who have no specialized knowledge. And the shocking thing in the GST tribunal, advocates are not eligible to become members.
Yeah, sad.
Sir, talking about this tribunalization, one another point from the taxpayer's point of view, we often see that, contradictory judgments by various tribunals and on almost identical or similar facts. And, SSC as taxpayer is at loss, where to go and which tribunal to follow. Even many times, even officers do not even accept the jurisdiction tribunal's orders also, and they would try to, pick up some unfavorable order from other tribunal and pass the assessment orders. Is there any solution to this, sir?
See, one thing is that if once you have tribunals, the difference of opinion is bound to be there. Why tribunals? Even so in Supreme Court also 2 benches are given contrary judgment. So this is part of the judicial process. And that in one way can be a healthy process, because I may take X view, you may take Y view, then it goes to a special bench and a special bench decides. So in excise, and I don't think, and I don't know, I think I would say that not even 5% cases ultimately go to special bench, less than 5%. Only a few cases ultimately go to a special bench. So I'm not very worried about people taking different things. What I'm also unfortunate is, if the view is in favor of the department, then a person in the Mumbai department will rely on something from Guwahati. But if it is in favor of the SSE, when I did this matter under section 2, subsection 15, the Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority case, I appealed for one of the Industrial Development Corporation. There is a Bombay ITAT judgment in my favor, but the officer follows the Jammu and Kashmir judgment and confirms demand of thousands of crores. So, and he's not accountable. An officer he's not accountable, and an officer refuses to follow a direct Supreme Court judgment, just ignores it. He's not accountable.
So one of the things you mentioned was, about some people in the department talking to tribunal in terms of that they should be in favor of the department, etc. But, one here is that even recently that in matters before the Supreme Court also, it's being argued that this case involves so many thousands of crores, etc. And one comes across Supreme Court decisions which, completely overrule the established law, which, even earlier Supreme Court judgments or High Court judgments have taken. And, sometimes one wonders, is it being driven to a large extent by the revenue considerations alone? And then where does taxpayer stand in all this?
See, I've been repeatedly saying that it is very unfortunate that the revenue tries to put up the monetary amount, say 5,000 crores are involved in this case. So as it is, you put a mental pressure on the judge that if he decides against the department, the government is going to lose 5,000. But they don't realize that, look, if the law has been settled for the last 15 years, and if you're not going to overrule it, or are you going to demand interest for the last 15 years? In fact, when I was a junior before Justice Rumapal, I was sitting for some other case, and the government lawyer had told the court that about 180 crores are involved. She said, I'll dismiss your case. Never again tell me what is the amount. We are here to decide principles, not here to decide that if it is 5,000 crores, it will be this way. If it is 100 crores, it will be that way. But this is an unfortunate practice, and I've written also about it in the recent past. And it does shake the confidence of the litigant. That look, if the large amount is there, my chances of success are very, very remote. That's a very unfortunate part. Just imagine, see, Vodafone, they didn't bother about the amount. They held in favor of the SEC. They didn't bother at all. So many of the earlier, all the old classic cases, Pune Electric Supply or Godhra Electric Supply, so many important cases, they decided in favor of the SEC, not bother about the revenue implications. In fact, they can decide against the SEC also. Ultimately deciding a principle of law. And what I'm saying is, if the government doesn't like it, if it is going to be a thing, make a retrospective amendment. If something goes horribly wrong, that law is there. But what is the point? And again, I've been repeatedly requesting that if there is a particular view followed for 15 years, and many, many high courts have followed that view, then don't change it. Like your case under 43B or other cases. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the other thing is, now we have this faceless assessments and faceless appeal system, where very often, we've seen the proper hearing is not given when the submissions are made, they're not being looked at, etc. So what is your view on this whole thing? Is it a good thing? I mean, the government looks at it from the perspective that, yes, it will help reduce corruption, etc. But what's your view on this?
Well, I'm only giving a view based on what I hear from my chartered accountancy friends who are appearing before faceless. I think in all important cases, a faceless doesn't work. Now, according to me, for routine cases, it's okay. If it's a routine thing for faceless, whether faceless or no faceless doesn't matter. But if it's a complicated case, now I don't understand. If I'm a foreign company, and even if the amount in my total return involves 500 crores, I get a personal hearing. But if it's a domestic company, even if the amount is 1,000 crores, I don't get a personal hearing. Now I'm told that there is a provision that if I ask for personal hearing, it has to be given. Then faceless appeals. I don't know whose idea was this. And I think it's very, very sad to say that I'll have faceless because I can't trust my own officer. The point is, if you make a law which is so difficult, which keeps on capable of multiple implications, then there is bound to be a system of lack of corruption. And do you mean to say people cannot get over this faceless method? Is not, I mean, how much, see what happens, my assets with me faceless, but my balance sheet is there, you know the name of my company, you know my address, you know my phone number, etc. So you mean to say you can't game the system? I mean, you have to be incredibly naive to believe that if I can't see the officer, there'll be no corruption. Where are you going? And look at faceless appeals. I'm told that hardly any faceless appeals are being heard. There's 6 lakh some odd appeals pending. In fact, I did for just Chandrachud, we made a recording. There was a government said tribunals, ITAT appeals have drastically reduced. Then I said, because there are no CIT appeal cases. There are no CIT appeal cases, there will be no tribunal case. So that's been recorded also by the Honorable Chief Justice. He recorded that because of the lack of disposal in faceless appeals. And I still don't know. I mean, you have to enlighten me why 6 lakh appeals are suddenly accumulated in faceless appeals. In fact, faceless. And I'll tell you one thing. Just imagine, if you use your 10-degree IQ, how do you argue before a judge an appeal without seeing him? Which document does he see? Which people? And if it's a bulky document, if suppose it's a large case of a SSC where many records have to be seen, I have to refer to different judgments. I have to distinguish judgments. I'll say, ITR, please see this page, please see that page, see this section. Just imagine, Judge, if you're going to a court and there's a black screen in front of you and the man is sitting behind, can you argue an appeal? It's absolutely astonishing that anybody can think that this is going to. And what is your aim reducing corruption, or is your aim laying down the proper law? And again, I'll tell you, now that we have finished 1922 Act, and we're now 100 years have passed. When I edit Kanga Palkala, 90% principles are now settled. You need to add the case to the footnote. Reopening the law is settled. Search the law is settled. So the Commission Appeal has to only apply that law, unless it's a brand new provision. How much of interpretation is there? We just see this ITR. 90% of the case will be following some other case.
Yes, followed.
In fact, that brings us to the next question, which is, government as the biggest litigant. And it's almost a compulsive behavior, it seems, that, let's litigate. And if we look at the statistics, almost, 70 to 90% between Tribunal, High Court and Supreme Court cases are lost. You spoke about, power and accountability. Now, the combination of one without the other is absolutely lethal in that sense. Plus, we have a law that is written, which is, I think, almost cruel, especially when people don't even speak English in this country. With hundreds of explanation, you write something and you give, 13 proviso to it. I mean, I can't imagine whether anybody can write such a thing, honestly. If you show it to any kid, any 20-year-old, 30-year-old, you see this law, does it make any sense to you? The answer is clearly no. Some laws are, 120 words in one sentence. I don't know whether it's a sentence or a sentence, if you know the pun in the, sentence, let's call it that way. So when we look at this kind of a lawmaking and this government as a litigant, where does the taxpayer stand when he fights with his own money and his money is paid to the government which will fight wrongly against him? So it seems like a never-ending loop, and it's only going to drag us all down.
See, there I would express my sympathy with the department partly, because if they know that the case has been following a settled Supreme Court judgment, there is no point in preferring an appeal. If it's a case of more than 5 to 10 crores, you'll be almost certain that the appeal will be filed, because nobody wants, if an officer doesn't file, there'll be some vigilance case against him. As a raw junior, I used to appeal before Commissioner of Central Excise, CIT appeals. They used to say that, look, I know you got a good case, but you try your luck before the tribunal. I'm sorry, I can't. So many large cases, we knew that. In fact, in the lighter vein, I had appeared before a Commissioner of Central Excise in Bangalore, and he asked me that what is the difference between appearing before a High Court and appearing before me. I'd just gone to the Karnataka High Court, I finished my admission, and I came before him. So I told him, sir, before you, there is no tension. So he said, why? I said, I know I'm going to lose. In a high court, I may win, I may lose. But for you, I know whatever I say, you're going to reject it. So he said, no, I got my own difficulty. So that way, 147 also, we just go through the motions. Like I tell people before the DRP or something like that, don't worry, anyway, it's going to be against you. Then you go to the tribunal. So it's just a mechanism you have to, so there is no tension, you know, you're going to lose. Because of the thing that they can't, because of vigilance compulsion. And that is also in other cases, like take in arbitration cases, all the public sector units. You'll never have a case where they accept an award. It will be fought right up to High Court, single judge, division bench, Supreme Court. Even if they are wrong, they will fight it because the officer has nothing to lose. He's going to get his pension, he's going to retire, his retirement benefits. But if he agrees, says, yes, in this case, I have no case, it's my fault, I am willing to accept it, then there'll be vigilance, there'll be 20 other reasons. So there I would not blame the department. The system is such that, as I was in the mediation center in Tamil Nadu, not one dispute where the government is involved was settled through mediation. Which is we can't take a decision, let the court decide. That's why I say like National Highways or some public 600 arbitrations, 700 arbitrations. So you know Tata Birla can have 600 arbitrations going on. He will quickly settle the matter. Okay, 100 rupees, I'll take 60 rupees today and go. But the government will not say, even if you 10 rupees, they'll say go up to Supreme Court. That is the unfortunate system. And there's a difficulty because the Prevention of Corruption Act also is badly drafted. So now I believe there's a new settlement for mediation through tax, etc. I don't know how far it's going to go.
But for, frivolous cases, which are clearly, out of line, should there be some kind of, if I represent...
No, there is a system of cost which nobody imposes. Because you see, if you go to UK and so on, whether it's a good case or sim case, the winner wins with the costs. So whether it's an assessee of the department, you have to pay the cost of the other side. So I'll think twice. If I know that, look, I'm already going to lose the money and if both sides are represented by expensive seniors, then it's going to be a huge expense. So I'll decide to settle. Your question is very pertinent. We don't have a system of cost. Take a PIL also. Somebody files a PIL to stop some project. It goes on for 3 years. Who pays for the cost of the litigation? Nobody.
And the whole system is clogged. The deserving cases also don't get justice in time because of all these kind of, shoddy ones.
Absolutely.
Mayur.
So next questions, couple of questions I would combine about the law making. You did made a mention about the laws are being made for the exceptional situations, like 1 or 2 people done something wrong and you penalize the entire community. So we see this is happening often in many situations, and the problem is that taxpayers would be landing up with the heavy punishment for slightest of non-compliance. That is one aspect of it, and the second, way the laws are being passed in Parliament, you also made a mention. But what we see, because there is no debate, and many times the laws are passed, or significant amendments are made in the name of the clarificatory in the nature. Okay, and so do you think that even because of this, the bureaucrats are actually calling the shot because the ministers or the lawmakers are not even discussing the law, or they may not be even aware about the implications of the law which they are passing in the Parliament?
Definitely, because you see now the danger is the basic principle of constitutional law is Parliament makes the law and the executive only implements the law. You give them power of notification for what you call delegated legislation, which will, the guidelines are laid down by Parliament and implementation is done by the civil servants. Now what's happening is the law itself is made by the bureaucracy. You take, for example, and very dangerously, the GST Act provides the exemption notification can have retrospective effect. It's unheard of. And many major judgments, in not only income tax, various laws, it's all done by notifications, far-reaching notifications, the information technology or GST or so many things. And the same thing happens with, and what is worse, even notification can be by a circular. Now you've got a new system in income tax where the circular goes beyond the act. There is an act and then there is an 8-page circular or an FAQ. He himself asks the question, he himself gives the answer. And then he makes it far beyond the main act itself. Where is your power to do that? Yeah.
And recently, in fact, on this 194R, where they said that the power to issue guidelines they brought in. I mean, that's a ridiculous.
That is absolutely.
No, but that is being happened. And the other new thing is that The memorandum in the finance bill is now 15-20 pages where they explain how one judgment is wrong and so on and so forth. But so what's happening is it is becoming law making by executive. At least a notification is tabled before Parliament. They may not see it. But circular, nobody bothers. Circular, let 194 hours. Point.
The mandate itself.
So, and also certain aspects of the lawmaking, I think sometimes, one wonders whether the bureaucrats who have drafted it are in tune with reality or not. Just like this recent, the TCS, increasing the rate from 5% to 20% and expanding the scope so drastically. Of course, there was some pushback from taxpayers, and which did result in some, relief to the lower taxpayers at least. But one wonders that why are such laws being made where the bureaucrats are completely out of tune with reality, what's happening on the ground?
You're right. This new TCS was absolutely shocking. 20% TCS. What is happening? And now you make 7 lakhs limit. First of all, you are saying that because people are leaving India, a lot of money through LRS route is going out of India, so I'll put 20% TCS. Now, you don't address why people are sending money out of India. That nobody says. What is the reason? That's the largest systemic problem. Suppose there is a spreading of malaria, then putting more hospital is not the answer. You try to eliminate the source of the malaria. That nobody is addressing. Now, coming back to your question on TCS, 20% TCS. Okay, on 7 lakhs you exempt. I know many cases of my own personal friends whose children are studying in foreign universities doing postgraduate. 7 lakhs, apart from tuition fee, they also have to pay their lodging expenses, hostel charges, and so on, which is definitely with the dollar being 82, 85 rupees and pound being 100 rupees, it's definitely crossing 7 lakhs. For 20% TCS, the government gets 20%. You will get your adjustment after assessment is made after 2 years. So for 2 years, the government gets your money. And now again, what has happened is because of this, now the entire thing of system of paying this through unauthorized channel has started now. Why should I pay TCS if I want to give my child in London or somewhere some money? Already people have, I'm told that people are saying that, look, we'll make sure you don't have to pay TCS. And so like, take for example, online gaming. You want to leave it 28% on the gross amount. I mean, do you know what is happening? See what are practices in the world. There's no point being moralistic about it. Whether it's liquor or cigarettes. Cigarettes you put high duty, 40% cigarettes are smuggled. So if you take online gaming, 28% with tax, it will go underground. So you accept there are people who want to game a game. Who are you to decide on morals? You let them do, you charge a normal GST. TCS also, suppose a person goes abroad, why 20%? And what is this new tax collection at source? My own son is studying. I must give 20%. So now 100 rupees is going to cost me 120. And for many, many people who are not, they have taken loans, etc. to fund these educations. And overnight the cost goes up by 20%. It's very, very unfortunate. As I said, the whole focus is revenue, maximize revenue. Somebody says 1-2 people have done something wrong. Tax the whole thing and then
let everyone suffer. Sir, if you were sort of in the hot seat and if you were the lawmaker.
Yes. I think we have just lost the signal.
Yeah, I think the Raman's question is really on this, the top bottlenecks on doing business in India.
How would you look at, sort of?
No, we lost you in between. You said if I was in the hot seat and then.
So, if you were the lawmaker and you have seen over the years what are the bottlenecks to ease of doing business or ease of living, what are some of the changes you would like to make, which are, big changes and which can be done very quickly?
I see, if I was in the hot seat, I would, and if my goal was to have ease of doing business. Now, what I would basically do is I divide ease of doing business into 3 components. Ease of starting a business, ease of running a business, and ease of closing a business. In all the 3 things I would focus. Now, ease of starting is basically a lot of the state legislation is involved. How do I get electricity permit? How do I get a land? How do I get this? Also, I would have to cooperate with the states and make it easy. We keep talking of single window clearance, but it is very often just in theory. because everybody, for whatever reasons, a rent-seeking mechanism. For every little permission you want to get something done, which really discourages people from investing in. On ease of doing, once the business starts, then the major role is the taxman's role. And there I would say that focus on growth maximization. I would say that, look, if you want investment to come to India, I'm talking manufacturing investment. You see, we are all very enamored by these startups and angel this thing and so on and so forth. But we forget that manufacturing has gone down. We want to create 100 million jobs. Where is it going? You know that. So on ease of doing business, I will benchmark with Vietnam, Malaysia, and see what they are doing and how our tax compares. If I want to market India, I must make India attractive. I personally feel what the government does is they sit in a position that this is what I've got. You want to come, you come. Suppose I'm manufacturing TV. Now I have to make a TV which the customer wants. I can't simply say I've got a 26.4-inch TV which is diagonal in shape. You want to take it, you take it. Nobody will come. But nobody has bothered to ask big manufacturers throughout the world, multinationals, why are you investing in Thailand? Why are you investing in Vietnam? My mother bought a blood pressure monitor. It's made in Vietnam. Why can't it be made in India? I bought a refrigerator made in Thailand. So nobody has asked Samsung, what do you want? What do you want for you to set up plants so that all electronic goods can be made in India? Our imports from China, $100 billion. Just imagine if all that is made in India. So I would use what the private company does, market India, get a feedback, what will be good for India. And then on ease of closing a business, this is a Ford plant in Taloja, can't be shut down for 6 years. Company goes, it has to be shut down. Where's the need for getting permission? So on all these three aspects, starting a business, doing a business, I will make sure that both the states and centers work in tandem. It's not very difficult.
Gautam bhai?
Yeah. So the one issue, sir, is on this taxation of charitable trusts. You know, charitable trusts, the law was fairly simple until maybe around 10 years back. If you see over the last 10 years, the whole atmosphere, you know, charitable trust taxation, I always tell people, I think is now more complex than business taxation also. It's far easier to comply for a business than for a charitable trust. And most charitable trust people set it up. It's a sort of a part-time thing. You know, you have employees who are not full-time. So today, setting up a small charitable trust is something which is very discouraging. The law is such that, you know, for a small mistake, you could, you know, end up losing almost half your corpus. So that's a huge problem today for charitable trusts. And, you know, there's no distinction between a small charitable trust and a large charitable trust which can comply. You know, that's the... So what is your thinking on this? That what should the law be like, you know, for charitable trusts? What is your thinking on this?
See, I often feel that charitable trust is perhaps the best example of how our entire system is wrong. You lose sight of the objective. Now you take charitable trust. Now you take the recent judgment also, charitable, it should be solely for education. You take the judgment of Ahmedabad urban development. Let's go simply by, you talk of education. Now, the whole thing is you can make profit, but you can't profiteer. You can't have more than 15 years surplus. You can't do this. You can't do that. 1023C, as Raman was mentioning, it has some 19 explanations and perhaps 20 provisos, 1023 capital C.
22 provisos.
Yes, 22. Now, just look at today, Harvard has a corpus of $6 billion, $5 billion. Oxford, see, nobody keeps on harassing Oxford. Are you charging more? Are you charging less? How much are you doing? These charitable trusts, and what I'm saying is, these are all NGOs doing wonderful work. And why is an NGO? Because the government can't do everything, therefore the NGO steps in. This I mentioned about education. Now you take off general public utility under 2 subsection 15. The GPUs were all affected and they invested. And somebody brought a law, I think in 98 or something, that they brought a law saying that your income can't be more than 20%. Those restrictions were there. Now today, any GPU, you can't do any activity at all except donations. Suppose I employ destitute women and make agarbatti and I sell it, and my income is more than 20%, then I lose the status. There is also no exit route. Today, many people are telling me, we don't want any charitable trust. We will just go away because the headache of having a charitable trust is so much. And this 115 TD, that whatever property will be taken as your deemed income in that year and trustees will be made liable. As you rightly put it, charitable trust, it has completely gone out of hand. And I want to know, what is the total tax as far as charitable trusts are concerned? You say Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority, you will tax it. the entire money, Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, they have given land on 99-year lease. They have collected 5,000 crores. That same 5,000 crores has been plowed back into infrastructure development. And you say it's a commercial activity. Industrial Development Corporation of the state is a commercial activity and tax it. Something is seriously wrong with your mind, because I have to collect, and the government, once somebody told me that, look, if you made 5,000 crores on the 99-year lease, you give 30% to central government, 70% use for Maharashtra. This is the argument. I think charitable trust, this, as you rightly put it, last 10 years, it has become absolutely impossible to run a charitable trust. Very, very difficult. And you don't know when you are going to get into a problem. So I think there could be a one-time settlement with trust that you please give an exit clause. I'm sure 80% trust will say, I don't want any more thing, I'm just leaving. Just leave me alone. Yeah. The law has become impossible now to make a charitable trust. Even a college, for example, suppose I got a playground and I give it on hire or something, or I've got an auditorium, I give it on some music program to get some money which I can use for the college. That also is not now, because not solely for education. I know cases where a college has an auditorium or college has a hall. It is sometimes given for a wedding function or something, so that whatever money comes can be used by the school or the education institution. It's a real estate, it can be monetized. That also you can't do now.
So even fundraising is a problem. Fundraising also may be regarded as a business activity and not incidental, and therefore resulting in loss of exemption.
And again, many people have lost the FCRA recognition. They can't get any donations also. It's a very difficult situation. I don't know.
And in fact, making such drastic changes, when I started, say, with a charity trust, I had X as the landscape. Now you change it dramatically. I should have an exit route that I'm going to change this after a year. You don't want to be in the game, you can walk out. And without doing that, bringing such laws seems too harsh.
No, you just see section 11, 12, 13. Look at the number of amendments. In those 3 sections. As you rightly put it, it is now perhaps 10x complicated than business taxation.
Absolutely, sir. So most uncharitable treatment to charitable trust. And
again, as I said, because say 5% trusts are bad, maybe doing some unlawful activities, you need really genuine charitable, really genuine. I know many genuine charitable trusts which are in a soup because of these changes.
Correct. They should concentrate on the expenses, whether I'm spending on the object, rather than
Exactly.
There has to be a revenue model.
See, suppose I sell goods, suppose I make goods, and I like say autistic children or somebody makes like say lizard papad or some. I mean, give you example.
Absolutely.
I make something, and even if I sell it 500% profit, as long as I apply 85% of it, it is going for charity. What is your problem?
Absolutely. Exactly. So coming back to another very important topic for discussion is about taxing agriculture. We know that it is a state subject. Nobody would like to touch, but the large part of our GDP is going tax-free, and people may be using it, for the converting or their illegitimate money also, because a lot of cash income is generated in this particular sector. What is your view on that, and how is the experience worldwide?
I don't know about worldwide, frankly, but as far as agriculture is concerned, ever since I joined the bar, there's a constant saying that agriculture must bear its own portion. And last 42 years, nothing has happened. And maybe because many of the political people are in agriculture activities, it's never going to come. So in our lifetime, I don't think any change is going to come in agricultural income at all. This will always be a holy cow which can't be touched. And money laundering or whatever it is, but I don't think in the next foreseeable future, any case after the Amrit Kal, we are going to see any agricultural income being taxed.
Sir, about GST also, you have been quite vocal. And if we look at, we are almost on 1st July and we'll be completing whatever 7-8 years. Compared to, its potentiality, you had the complete empty drawing board to bring out something which is an enabling tax, bringing all these taxes into one. I mean, it was a huge opportunity. Now, when you look back, compared to its potentiality and compare it to the reality, how do you see it now at its, completion of whatever, 6-7 years?
See, in all fairness, when I speak to people, many of the large industries are happy with GST. There's no question to octroi. The goods which are
Yes.
taking 8 days to go now come in 3 days, 4 days. So it'll be wrong to say that it's a complete disaster. There is a lot of
Sure,
plus points are there.
Absolutely.
So accept that. And it's not a joke for a large country like India to have this entire electronic system. It had a lot of glitches is there. But what is worrisome in GST is it is not a real promise. It's one nation, one tax, seamless credit. But the entire approach of the legislature seems to be to disallow ITC at any cost. Like now, under all services don't get ITC, which is and now, for example, works contract. You declare works contract to be a service, and they don't get ITC. You want to make malls, etc., liable to service tax, malls, warehouses, logistics. But you say it's immobile property, therefore I will not give ITC. When you want to collect duty, it is taxable. But when it comes to ITC, no, you're immobile, I won't give you. That's the inherent unfairness of the whole system. And there are so many other points which are there in GST which have not been addressed. So the idea of GST is revenue. In fact, Dr. Kelkar told me also that he said, I've told the government you put 12% as the maximum tax. And if you collect less than what you're collecting, you can take my pension and the only home I own. Yes. So that's what he keeps saying. So even now, what is the justification on putting 28% tax on cement? You want to develop infrastructure, you put 28%. Now that 28% is not allowed ITC credit. I mean, you are only penalizing yourself. You want to collect GST, but it is so in GST, there are a lot of provisions which have milited against the concept of a real GST. Leave alone petrol, which can't be VATed, but disallowing credit. And again, the provision of attaching accounts at random, unaccountably, simply something happens, one day doesn't happen, just come and attach your bank account. Seize this. That again is a very, very harsh provision. And now the system of there's no time now, but the way the section 73, 74 operate leaves much to be desired. Everything is a 5-year period on which you start demanding duty for the last 5 years. Whether you change your opinions, you can't go 5 years, you can go 1 year maximum, not beyond that.
So over the last 40 years, you've appeared in many cases, in many landmark cases as well. So what is for you, most memorable courtroom debates that you've been in?
Well, personally, I will say that one of the plus points in my career is that I had the chance of hearing Mr. Palkhiwala argue the first leasing case on investment allowance. I had the opportunity of hearing Mr. Sirwai in the Madras High Court for a short while, Jethmalani. So I had the chance of seeing very, very eminent lawyers, and that was been a great learning experience. So these are the doyens whom Mr. Fali Nariman is still there, Soli Surabji, all these eminent people, I've heard them argue in a superb way. For me personally, the highlight would be I did the Sahara case from 2011 right up till for almost 7-8 years non-stop in battle after battle, and we were able to do substantially well. Income tax, I think I did the case on investment allowance, which Mr. Palkhiwala argued in IT80. Then when it came to High Court, I was supposed to brief him, but then P.Datar died. He said he is going for the funeral, he didn't come. And I argued the High Court case, we won by God's grace. And when it came before Supreme Court, before Sujata Manohar, it was a turning point. I did that case, and I still remember when I finished Mr. Soli Surabji, I didn't know him at that time. He came and said, young man, you've done very well. We won that case. That was a turning point. After Sham Finance, it's actually the deed case was first leading on investment allowance. Then after 96, my work in the Supreme Court started picking up after that case on a regular basis. Then other memorable case was the National Company Law Tribunal, and my perhaps very happy moment was the NTT was struck down. The National Tax Tribunal was struck down. I tell people now, if NTT had lost, there will be no High Court dealing with tax. It will be IT80, NTT, and Supreme Court. So I keep telling people that you would have had judges who go to Supreme Court who have never dealt with company law or tax, because there is no tax and company law in the High Court. So those are the memorable things. I would say Sahara, NTT, these were the important cases I argued. I've also done a lot of matters, like I did this matter against decriminalization on Section 377. I put for one of the petitioners. That was a human rights issue. Then I was very happy. One recent case gave me a lot of satisfaction was there's a wrong judgment of the Supreme Court saying that Jawans, armed forces, against the order of the Armed Force Tribunal, they can't go to High Court, they must only go to Supreme Court. So that came before a bench of 3 judges, and now they have restored the position. So several Jawans, their widows, can approach their local High Court, they need not go to Supreme Court. So these are some of the things which we have done. And for me personally, almost 30% of my work is pro bono. So, and that is always a great learning experience for me.
That's very satisfying doing work pro bono as well, I suppose.
Sir, the balance, today is a big problem, and professionals like you would always find, a lot of stretch on your time. And what's your sort of secret or your mantra or your tips for others to strike a balance between, work, personal life, health, and, family and all of that?
Oh, it's a very big struggle. I mean, especially it's always very difficult. Fortunately, now travel is much easier. When I was a junior lawyer, there's only Indian Airlines flights were limited. It's only later that the thing opened up, and we had to go by overnight train to most places. It was a struggle. So work-life balance was there. Only one thing is, we're fortunate to get full support from my wife, from my family in my travel. And as a young struggling person, as I said, I used to take classes, teach in the institute and so on. And I was 6:30 in the morning and again 6:30 in the evening. So I had to invariably get up at 4:15 and take a bus, go to the class, then go to court, again take a class in the evening and come back. So it was a great struggle. One way I tried to sort it out was I stopped working on Sundays. Whatever happens, I kept Sunday free for the family. Then again, try in summer holidays and at least take 2 holidays with the family together. That was one way I did. As far as possible, I tried to attend all the children's functions. So that way I tried to do. But work-life balance is a big difficulty. Plus, I also started writing books because I keep telling young people, I noticed that Palkhiwala had written a book before he was 30. So I said, I'll also write a book before I'm 30. So I wrote my first excise book, but it was 32. But the year my book came, my income went by 400% in 1 year because of the book. So I keep telling people, write and see whether your book sells or not, it's a great learning experience for you. It's like R&D, it's like R&D thing. So classes plus writing the book plus practice was a huge toll on time. It is very difficult. I think all of you will be working till late in the evening and one would like to spend more time with the family. But I would tell people that please take time to spend time with the children. Once they grow up, then you miss all the points. Especially in a city like Bombay, where traveling takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Very true.
That's very true. Fortunately for Zoom, now it's we are able to save a lot of traveling time.
Lot of time.
But unless you carve out a particular area that, say, a Friday evening or a Saturday evening, you keep your personal thing like a business appointment. Like Sunday, I don't work at all, for example. Then that's completely sacred. Whatever happens, unless an extraordinary emergency, Sunday is fully for the family. And I always go to Delhi on Monday morning, so I make sure that Sunday evenings I'm at home. Unless like tomorrow I'm going to Bombay because of the monsoon, I'm going one day earlier. But otherwise, Sunday is reserved, holidays are reserved. So that way we try to make our best. Another thing difficult is unless you work extraordinarily hard, you can't provide all the material comforts to your family.
Very true.
Yeah, unless you work extra, you don't get the. You want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, all this will take extra work.
Yeah, there's a bit of a trade-off there always.
Yes. And as you say, you have to put in the competition around you, you have to work as hard as you can. Yeah.
Yes, my next question is in fact a related one. Sir, I heard your video on, rather saw your video on motivational talk to young lawyers. You said in the beginning that you were reading others' autobiography that got inspired from mentors, and now today you are in that mentoring position. So, how is your experience, and what advice you would like to give to youngsters? Number one, and you have been inspired by Mr. Palkhiwala, and you updated his edition, Palkhiwala's book. So, what was your experience on that?
On updating the book?
Book which
your 2 parts. You asked me about
two different questions. One is
advice to youngsters and the other book. Yeah, I'll take them one by one. Advice to youngsters is I tell people that youngsters today I get interns all the time, and I can tell you that most of them are extremely bright. They've got the benefit of technology, the case laws are on their fingertips, everything is there. So the present generation is far brighter than what we were. I must honestly say they are very good, very analytical. And again, it's like the 80-20 rule. There are 20% who are very serious about the profession, 80% who just move along. And ultimately, it's just this 10-20% who will then go to the top. But today, they've got a lot of resources. They've got technology in their favor, which they can leverage. But old or new, the general principles of having a good mentor, following your role models, working very hard, always will continue. And I tell people that, look, you must create a niche for yourself. If you do general civil law, then there are 50,000 advocates. How do you distinguish yourself? So you take a specialized, after doing, better to take some specialization where you become a master in that subject, whether it is criminal law or PMLA or income tax or whatever it is. In one area you take up and you specialize and acquire mastery in that. And one way to ask the mastery is either write books or write regular articles, have a blog or whatever it is. That's what I'll advise mentors. Secondly, I'll advise youngsters that please don't chase money. Money should be the byproduct. Your professional excellence should be the aim. Money will come. Like as I keep saying, God does not pay. God does not pay every day. But I think if you keep focusing on your profession, the money will follow. But if you chase money first, then the temptation to take shortcuts, etc., is very, very serious. Thirdly, I would say that even today or at any point of time, honesty always is the best policy. In the long run, you may suffer. In the short run, you may have difficulties, but in the long run, you will always benefit, and you can hold your head high and say that whatever I did not take shortcuts. I did not compromise. The means don't justify the end. Now, coming to Kanka Palkhiwala's book, actually, I wrote my excise book in 1988. I was 8 years in the bar, and that book was fortunately a big success. Then I wrote procedures. Then my publisher Wadhwa and Company said that Ramaya ko koi nahi kar raha hai, aap kyun nahi karte? Because I was doing some company work also, and CLB also was just starting. So I started being the editor of Ramaya. So I was doing excise and company law. Both books helped me a lot because I developed a very large practice for the company law board. Many important cases I had the chance to argue. So these books were there. Then what happened was, after Mr. Palkhiwala died, Mr. Vyas brought out one edition, Mr. Dinesh Vyas. He could not then continue beyond the 9th edition. He could not continue. LexisNexis took the copyright from N.M. Tripathi. And I still remember the same room. Mr. Wadhwa came with that time some foreigner, some Martin or some Mr. James or somebody was there, the managing director. He came and said, so, look, this book is a flagship book it's a very prestigious title. We would like you to take it up. I said, I don't have time. He said, no, otherwise the book will die. The entire work of Mr. Palkhiwala will die. So then I took it up as a challenge. So 10th edition, we came out in, I think 2014, we came out. And I must tell you that before that book, I also wrote the Courtroom Genius, which was the which was the life of Palkhiwala. So I came into very intimate contact with Mr. Behram Palkhiwala. So we did a lot of work on that. And when I wrote the book, when I published the 10th edition, we brought it back to the same font size. The same grey color book, which was the 7th edition, the last edition Palkhiwala worked on personally. I brought it back. And before the release, I first gave the first copy to Mr. Behram Palkhiwala. I went to Bombay just to give him the first set before the book launched. And he had tears in his eyes and he hugged me and said, I'm so proud of this book. And in the public function where it was released, Justice S.P. Bharucha, Chief Justice, released the book, Behram Palkhiwala was there. And he said a sentence which I'll never forget in my life. He said, this is a book written by my younger brother, of which my elder brother would have been very proud. So that's what Behram Palkhiwala said. It brought tears to my eyes. So that's all. Then COVID came and we couldn't work at all. We couldn't go to court. So I used that time for finishing the next edition. Now the 12th edition should come in this year. My schedule is to bring my book on the Constitution this year. I'm just finishing it. And 2024, will be the next edition of Patliwala. People say that because of the elections, budget may get postponed beyond May. So then 2024, hopefully I should be able to give all of you the next
Very
12th
good.
edition of Ganga Patliwala.
Very nice, sir. Thank you.
When you refer to your interns, the many interns that you have, etc., are there, or even younger professionals you work with and you see, so what is it that you see missing in the younger generation? Is there something which you feel they should inculcate, but which is lacking today?
Well, I think this pattern has continued. When I see, say, let's for example, there are, let's say, 10 youngsters I work with, apart from interns, then I feel that there are 2 or 3 who are exceptional, who are working more, who are doing writing articles, or going beyond their average practice day. So that, say, 10 to 20% are doing. The remaining 8 are just doing their job. They're doing it well. But unless you go the extra mile, that if everybody is working 8 hours, unless you work the extra 4 hours, you're not going to make a mark. As what somebody said, it's what you do in your spare time that which decides who you are. So when you get back home, when you burn the midnight oil or get up at 4 o'clock and write an article, that's what makes the distinction. So among the youngsters, I find that the same pattern continues which was there in my time. Ultimately, in every generation, there'll be a smaller percentage which will outwork everybody and rise to the top. I think that will happen all the time.
So you
Tatar,
gave
this is
them-
the yes, Madhur.
You gave them the roadmap, you know, about what they should do. But what, in your view, now the opportunities and threats for the youngsters, looking at the present litigation scenario, overall scenario?
What the youngsters should do.
I mean, what are the opportunities or threats for the youngsters and for the profession as a whole?
What? No, I didn't follow the question.
So now, what are the opportunities and threats which are available to the young professionals?
Okay. Now, if you talk of suppose you talk of chartered accounting firms or lawyers, let's say we talk of chartered accounting. I think from what I see, then you have to decide whether you're going for audit or tax. Since you're talking of the more of litigation oriented thing, I'll focus on that. Suppose as a chartered accountant, you want to focus on litigation. Then I would say that go to the tribunal every day, attend the hearing. Even if you don't have a case, if you're free, just go and see how the cases are being argued. Keep a notebook, keep jotting down all the important points. One thing very important is the youngsters, once they decide their chosen field, then they must try to attain mastery in that field. Partly by role modeling, following what eminent lawyers, eminent chartered accountants are doing, follow the same pattern. Then when you get a brief, try to do it as best as you can. Try to go the extra mile to see some new argument can be put forth. Then I tell youngsters that whether you like it or not, if you're going to practice, then your English is very important. So I tell people, particularly in North and South, that as far as possible, stick to speaking English. Try to improve your communication as much as you can. Read biographies. I tell people very important things to keep a notebook and jot down important cases, important phrases all the time. Very often even today also, I got a number of notebooks. When I come across some unusual judgment, I make a note of it. So keep that judgment in mind. And then and one thing is there, you have to be consistent. You can't just one day work at 3 o'clock, get up at 4 o'clock and gone. Whatever you do has to be a consistent pattern. And I would advise youngsters to set their goals, It's 2023, decide where you want to be in 2025 and then work backwards. Suppose you want to write a book in 2025. How do you start writing the chapter today? You want to earn 10 lakhs of rupees. How are you going to earn 10 lakhs? What service are you going to do? Because ultimately, a person pays you for the special value you add. Why should a person pay me, say 100 rupees and pay other lawyer 50 rupees? It's only because he believes that I can deliver something special. Like I go to an eminent cardiologist because I know that he will do my bypass surgery better than the other person. So that has to be the aim, that you must be able to deliver outstanding service and the money will flow.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the last question. We have stretched a little bit on time, but if you had to give, 4 or 5 books that you would recommend to, young professionals, what would they be?
Young, on books on young professionals, books.
No, I mean titles that, they would benefit from reading as young professionals that you feel, are really critical in that sense.
Well, if it's a lawyer, then I would recommend that he reads the top biographies like Roses in December and so on. I would
Yes.
also recommend youngsters to read books on goal setting, on management, on strategy. Like I'm now reading a book called The Crux. It's on entire strategic planning. How do you plan your life? It's very important for professionals. Then today I would recommend youngsters to see YouTube videos. You got
Yes.
people like Tony Robbins, you got people like Jack Canfield, you got people like Ed Milet. Read that. Other very important, like take the last interview of Kobe Bryant, was a basketball player. How he prepared himself to be the best basketball player. He said he was number 57. He said, if I had to be number 1, how do I cross the first 56? It's a fascinating video. He says, okay, my legs are weak. I must strengthen my legs. My jump shots are not good. I must focus on that. So I would recommend people to see these YouTube videos. See the YouTube video of Djokovic, for example.
Yes.
So the self-help videos on YouTube are also very useful apart from books. So to summarize, I would say biographies and books on management. Peter Drucker particularly you must read. And time management, goal setting, all these are very important books, and implement them. And other thing which I keep telling people is, I try to follow, which is that daily introspection. Every day before you sleep, just spend 10 minutes. How did you do the day? What could you have done better? And then visualize the next day also. That's very, very important. We don't introspect. We just watch some TV program and sleep. But better to just spend 10 minutes from morning to evening. What did I do? What could I have done better? That is a great
Some reflection.
Very important. Very important.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Gautam, anything you want to ask?
No, thank you, sir. I think it's been excellent.
Yeah. I think we have done almost 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been a pleasure
excellent.
talking to all of you. See you.
Yes, Mr. Datar,
Thank
thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and
Yes.
giving a lot of insights into very, very important issues. And this will be a treat for our readers, especially for the special issue of journal,
Yeah.
because we are entering the 75th year of the profession. Thank you very much, and thank you for training very chartered accountants as well. Uh, through your lectures and mentoring. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you so much.